Welcome back to Building Ascot. Today we're going to build a small jetty, a fishing skiff, the fisherman's hut, and do a whole lot of landscaping. We are also going to tell the tale of the fisherman's life and his unrequited love for the local courtesan. The fisherman was born to fish and loved it. As soon as he could put a rod in his hand, there was never any doubt as to what his profession would be. Just like his father. Unfortunately, his parents passed away when he was quite young to a fever, leaving him to fend for himself. Thankfully, his fishing skills always kept him fed, and with what he was able to sell, he managed to flesh out a comfortable, albeit humble life here on the serene lake that rests at the foot of his hometown. To this day, he still lives in the house his parents left him, as he never married or had any children. When the fisherman was a very young man, he fell in love with the escort that worked at the Lone Pine Inn. She was quite a bit older than he was and did not reciprocate the young man's feelings. Not wanting to let go of this relationship, the fisherman saved every penny he had to spend one amazing night with the woman of his dreams. That night sealed his fate, as he never so much as glanced at another person afterwards. In memory of that moment, and inspired by the Lone Pine, he planted a tree to honour that one fantastical night. He is no gardener, however, and the tree, not being native to the area, was unable to establish itself fully before the copperweed choked it out. Now it stands symbolic of his love for the older woman. Beautiful in its youth, but now a natural grave marking what could have been if nurtured correctly. Years later, he still remembers that evening and looks back on it with fondness, and as such does not have the heart to cut down the dead tree, as it still reminds him of his love. Now that the two are much older, he has managed to fashion a strong relationship with the retired courtesan. The two are oft seen sitting overlooking the Ascot lake, enjoying a beverage and each other's company. Sadly, years later, he still can't bring himself to tell her of his feelings. She had rebuffed him once before, and the fisherman felt he could not take the rejection a second time. He was happy to have a friendship in their later years, and they would often help each other out where they could. There was one thing that could be better for the fisherman, however. He was sick of the treatment the courtesan was receiving from her landlord, the farmer. It was no secret in the town of Ascot that he wanted her out just so he could plant another field. He had no compassion. The fisherman was just glad that they forced the farmer to repair his love's house. Still, he knew that the conflict was far from over and worried what the next tactic would be to force her from her home. As influential and wealthy as the farmer was, at least in terms of Ascot, there was little the fisherman could do to help. He would have written her son if only he knew how, and anyone in Ascot that could use letters was bound to tell the farmer anyway. One evening, as the fisherman looked out over the lake from under his dead tree, he thought, "I may have to take matters into my own hands." Okay, so here we are with the next episode of Building Ascot, what we've managed to achieve today. There was a lot of terraforming to do in this build, but I think it's made a huge impact with the way that Ascot actually looks. The lovely red colour against the green really shines out. You can see we've put the copperweed everywhere, all over the hills, and we're going to continue it out that way as we move the town further out. This copperweed that's travelling all over these hills here is a nice stark red. It contrasts with the green grass also. If we go down here, we can see the little boat. It's very difficult to build a detailed boat on this sort of scale, but this is the best that I could come up with, a little fisherman's boat with all these nets that he's got here, and the furled up sails there too. On the jetty itself, we've managed to put a few little details along here to make it look like it's well used. Some hanging nets, some yabby pots, a few fish out in the sun that probably would not smell that nice. We've got a little fishing rod here with little caught fish on the side. Somebody's come down to drop a line in. As we go up this way, there's actually two ways up to the fisherman's hut. We've got the main course where people would come to get to the jetty, and then the fisherman's got his own little way up to his own property just here. You can see he's filleting a fish for dinner. He's got a little bit of storage again. It's a little bit smelly. The poor fisherman would be odorous. It's probably the best way to put it. And he's got his nets hanging up here too, with a little firewood hut just there. We've put some of this hedging through here just to sort of differentiate these two roads and just make it feel like it's its own little space. And he's got his little laundry area just here. Pretty simple house again. The people of Ascot are not overly wealthy. Obviously he would be eating fish there, and just a nice simple home. Now we redid the stump. You could see I was struggling a little bit with what colour to put in the centre here to look like the sawn logs. There's not really a texture, I don't think, that sort of suits that style, but that's probably the closest I could come up with. I may swap that out with other blocks just to see what I think might look good. As we come over here, we can see we've got the little chairs here. The 2 chairs and the 2 cups where he would sit with the retired courtesan, Lucardus's mother, and enjoy each other's company. This is the dead tree that he planted that the copperweeders managed to choke out. Just wasn't native to the area, so it's just sort of died, but he doesn't have the heart to cut it down. In Australia we have a bird called a plover, and they would build nests in the most random spots, get very aggressive about defending their territory, so we're just using our imagination a little bit, and that's what those 2 birds are up to just there. But overall, I think the build has come out looking really, really nice. It's really starting to tie the entire town together. Like when you take a shot, you can sort of see and feel what this build is going to be like. If you've made it this far into the video, I'd love it if you could drop a like, because it does help expose the channel to more people. Thanks for watching everybody, and we'll catch you for the next episode.